Okay, Monday, June 20th. It's Juneteenth in the U.S. Well, that was actually yesterday. It was the day the last slaves were freed. I think it celebrates that holiday. The word reached Texas, and the last slaves were set free. So it's a new national holiday in the U.S., which coincides, I believe, with Father's Day. And I think the Americans have Monday off. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about today was I've been in some, LinkedIn comments, chat groups, whatever, where people write in the comments and they're almost having a dialogue. So I'm into that, in Facebook and LinkedIn. And we were discussing, I was saying Ukraine needs more than weapons. They also need 100,000, U.S. and NATO soldiers, infantrymen with air support to help the Ukrainian army hold the gains that they're getting. The Ukrainian army retakes something, and then those guys have to keep moving on, but then the Russians can sneak back in, and recapture. I think that's what's going on. It's hard to get any decent news around here. And then they said, no, Ukraine should just make a deal, give up some land for peace. But okay, I'm totally against this, because all that kind of a deal does is give Russia 2-3 years to regroup and try again. And they will never stop. I mean, these are guys that shoot down, commercial airliners and accuse them of spying. And, when there's a hostage situation, if you're a hostage in Russia, you can pretty much count on the Russians will come and shoot you and the hostage takers. I mean, you're just dealing with a different mentality, to put it politely, on how they see the world and see themselves. So how would such a negotiated settlement look, and what would be the strategy? How would we do such a deal? It would have to be something like this. So let's say Ukraine decides, okay, we're giving up Crimea, and we're giving up Donbass, and we're giving up that land bridge, the area between the Donbass and the Crimea, that has the Kherson and Mariupol. So in exchange for that land, what's left of Ukraine, Russia would absolutely have to recognize and understand that what's left would be in NATO and would be in the European Union unconditionally. And then right away the U.S. would have the right to, and NATO, I guess, U.S. under NATO, or NATO under U.S., however you want to put it, would get to build the bases and build the military infrastructure to hold that wall, hold that new border in place. That there would be all those bases in Germany and Poland would just be moved forward and into the eastern front of Ukraine, and that would be the new boundaries of Europe. So in exchange for that 20%, that would have to happen. Also, the continued policy to disengage or divest of Russian business and get rid of Russian oil dependency would still continue. The U.S. would have to increase its oil production to the point where the gasoline price drops down to $2 a gallon, and then maybe add $1 a gallon tax to that, so it's back up to $3, let's say, which most Americans can handle. And then that extra dollar is used to build, nuclear power and other energy to get us off the oil dependency and keep the oil prices down. And this this strategy could work. If we let them have this 20% now, and then we bankrupt, we do a slowly bankrupt the Russian economy to where it breaks down, and have a continued economic war on them, continued policy. And then maybe in the future, if they want to, get Cadillacs again, or get access to the markets, or get demand for their goods, they would have to give back something in Ukraine. The Russians would have to understand that this deal, we would still do Voice of America, and make it hard for Russians to own things abroad and keep the pressure on, and eventually they will start returning things back. Maybe it has to be a chess strategy like this. Like, we give up some land now, we get to move NATO forward some more, and move the European Union more eastward, and then we start this economic dismantling of the Russian dependency. Start divesting of Russia, getting rid of our dependency on Russia, And maybe it's a 20-year play, but maybe eventually those lands would be, can be negotiated back through some economic way. I mean, they're having birth rate issues in Russia and a lot of demographic issues which will rear its head at some point. And then of course they have, young smart guys that are all leaving, and we could have an open door visa for their young smart guys so we can brain drain them, and bring them into Ukraine, and they can work in IT companies and work for the West, and we can continue to do CIA operations and everything, and tell them this pound of flesh that they want, it's going to come with a price, and then in the back, invisibly, we also do things to get it back. We can, I think Putin's got another 20 years left. I personally don't think he's sick. So we have to think in that way, in a 20-year strategy, how to, get these lands back. I mean, like I said, I want to make it clear, I'm against any yielding of any lands, because it sets a bad precedent. The next thing you know, China's going to want to take Taiwan, and it's just going to be a big mess, and it's going to change the whole polarity of the world. But if we had to go down that route, I'm just saying this is a hypothetical, and maybe it's not so hypothetical. It might be we're 100 days in this war and everyone's losing interest, so it's something we may have to think about. Sadly, but true. I mean, one thing you'll notice about people here in Ukraine is they always just want to be optimistic and don't want to think about everything. They only want to think about, it's probably everywhere like this, but you see it a lot here. It's really hard to talk, difficult realities with people here. It's sad. It's sad, but it's true, and it's going to be a very difficult pill to swallow, to give up lands. But like I said, if what's left of Ukraine is NATO and EU and gets modernized, and that gives confidence to bring investors here, and then there'd have to be this policy about immigration, like open immigration, so they can have fill up the population here, so they have a pool to draw from for the army and have a tax base, and then at the same time they're doing everything they can to destabilize the Russian economy and Russian political hierarchy. That would it would just be a new shift. But in that limbo time, the Russians are going to have a big chokehold on the world grain supply, especially for Africa and the Middle East, and the U.S. has to do something about that. The U.S. and Canada, South America, U.S. will have to work with South America, to make up for that loss in food, and redo the alliances and give these countries incentive to be aligned with us and not the Russians. So the U.S. will have to do a big change in its foreign policy as well, so that they can keep the alignment towards us, and versus the Russians. It's like so. Yeah, that's my thoughts on this. Anyway, give it a like and subscribe, and we'll catch up soon.